Hello, good morning, students. So today I'll be starting a new unit, that is Unit 2, Introduction to C++. So I'll start the first chapter, that is Overview of C++. Now this unit, Unit 2 and Unit 4, these two units are very important. These two units you have to understand very nicely. On the based on these two units, um, is this subject based on and next year also, okay, these two units will continue. So understanding these two units is very important. Okay, so be attentive. Okay, focus on these two units, and you have unit 2 you must understand. Okay, the basics you must understand very well. If you understand the basics, you will find no problem in studying unit 4 also. So what is C++? Okay, so today we'll discuss the basic part, that is the introduction to C++, history of C++, and so on. Okay, so the history of C++. C++ is superset, that is extension of C programming language. Okay, so before C++ was developed, C programming language was there. Okay, now based on that C programming language, C++ programming language was formed. Okay, there were some features in C programming language that was lacking, so that setback was overcome by the C++ programming language. Okay, so this was developed by Dr. Johnny Sostrop, okay, at AT&T Bell's Lab. That was in the early 1980s. It was initially called C with classes, but it was later changed to C++. The plus plus sign came after the increment decrement operator was created. Okay, so later on you will see what this plus plus symbol means. Okay, so C++ it is a high level programming language which enables programmers to easily create programs. Okay, so earlier also we discussed about high level programming language, machine language, assembly language, and so on, right? So just in short details, okay, high level programming language. Now in machine language, the programmers wrote machine instructions, right? That was in computer language, binary, zeros and ones, so that was very difficult. So high level programming language, so C++ uses high level programming language, means that programmers can easily write the programs because it is written in human readable form. The programs were written in human readable form. It was much easier to read, and it was much easier to learn, so programmers could find it very easy. And the high level programming language had compilers, translators, interpreters, and so on to convert the the human readable form to machine language. Okay, so this was enabled in the high level programming language, so that's why this C++ programming language became very popular, and it is still used. Now C++ supports both procedural and object-oriented programming, that is OOP. In short, it is OOP language. Okay, whereas C language is procedural language and lacks certain key features which was added in C++. So what is procedural, that we'll see in brief. Okay, and object-oriented programming, this concept is in this unit, in this particular chapter. Okay, only the theoretical explanation is given. Now you'll not be using this object-oriented programming in class 11, but later on in the next year, the whole chapter will be based on this OOP, that is object-oriented programming. Mostly um, in this chapter, and yes, the programs that you'll be learning will be based on procedural programs. Okay, so what is procedural programming language? Now, procedural programming, it breaks a program into small functions or modules. So functions or modules. So as I've marked here, function is a block of code which is used to perform a particular task. Okay, so each of these small functions programs are assigned a stepwise instruction and run separately and then integrated together to form a program. So procedural programs focus on the process rather than the data. Okay, so this is what is procedural programming talks about. Okay, in a procedural programming, now you give instructions to the computer, stepwise instructions, and the computer executes that. Okay, so in a procedural programming, the focus is on the functioning of the program. Okay, stepwise instruction. Now you just think about, if suppose you were to create a calculator program. Okay, a calculator program has addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, right? Now if you were to create a program on that, okay, now what will happen is that you will split the program into four different parts. That is one for addition, one for subtraction, one for multiplication, and one for division. Now if you are using a procedural programming, okay, so that program is split up into four small modules or four function programs. Okay, so four programs, that's calculated, is split up into four programs. Now whenever you want to do addition, okay, now in C++ program, okay, there is one function that is called as the main function. Okay, using that main function, all the other function programs are called and executed. So suppose you in a program, you have the addition program, you are planning to do the addition program, the main function will call that addition program. Later on you want to do the subtraction program, the main function will call the subtraction program. Okay, so here, uh, the in this procedural or programming, okay, the focus is on how the logic is written. Okay, so what happened is that all of those four programs, okay, they are given an instruction to execute. One for addition, to execute addition. Okay, one for subtraction, to do subtraction, one to do division, and so on. Okay, now all of them are integrated together, and then after that, after you do addition, if you want to do subtraction, the main function will take care of that. Okay, so the procedure of execution of the program is what is focused on in this procedural programming language. Okay, not on the data. So here data in this case is the input entered by the user, and after processing, the output that is generated. Okay, so here C++ uses OOP features which treat data as the most important element in the program. So that problem was overcome by C++ programming language. In C++, an added feature, a new feature was added, that was this object oriented programming, okay, which treats data as the most important element in the program. Okay, that is the data. Now just a practical example, if suppose you have a watch, okay, you have a watch, a very expensive watch, okay, and however, the watch works like all other watches, right? The it rotates from in clockwise direction, okay. However, what happens is that it never gives you the correct time. No matter how many times you set the watch, it is always showing you the incorrect time. So that means it is always giving you the wrong data. The functioning of the watch is correct, Okay, the way the watch should work, okay, in clockwise direction, okay, the it runs, okay, but it never gives you the correct data. Okay, so that problem is overcome in this C++ using the object oriented programming feature, okay, where the data is to be correctly entered, correctly processed, and then correctly outputted. Okay, so here the data is protected. Okay, so procedural program use a top-down approach, and object-oriented programming uses bottoms-up approach. So what is top-down approach and what is bottom-up approach? Okay, top-down approach breaks a problem into smaller sub-problems or modules and repeats the process of solving each problem from the top. In this approach, a main function program will call other sub-functions. Each sub-functions will have its own code to execute. Okay, so the example that I told you about, okay, the calculator program. So you break a calculator program, one program, into, let's say, four smaller programs. That is one for addition, subtraction, multiplication, like that, right? So that process is repeated, okay, starting from the top. So let's say that the main function uh, is where the program starts execution. Okay, so if you want to do addition, the main function that is from the top, it will call the addition part of the program, that function, that sub function. Okay, and then so that addition sub function program will have its own code to execute. It will accept the data from the user, okay, and then do the addition, right? Later on, if subtraction wants to be done, the main function will again call. Okay, so here the top part of the program is called again and again. Okay, so if any changes is done on the top part of the program, it affects the sub functions or the modules also. Okay, now in bottoms up approach, each modules are linked together to make a big program. Okay, so every module is defined properly in detailed. Okay, the program is developed into sub functions or modules and then integrated with the main functions. Okay, so later on we'll see about this bottoms up approach more in detail. Okay, here in the bottoms up approach, okay, an object is created. Okay, so this object focuses on the data, and this object is accessed using these functions. So likewise, okay, so using these objects we complete the modules into a bigger program, okay, and then it is integrated by the main function. So we'll see later on about more about these objects and classes. Okay, in the next class I'll discuss about the object oriented programming paradigm. Okay, so that will be all for today. Hope that you have understood.